Welcome to the Strategic Management Accounting course, where we teach the value-adding steps and processes necessary to execute strategy. Whether you are just starting up or looking to grow your business, then this course is for you. With your host, Dr. Neale O'Connor.
Now, I want to take you through a real-life example, and then we can finish up with questions, and then we're done for tonight. What time do we finish tonight, by the way?
10.
Oh man, I've got to go for another hour? Yes. Okay, all right, let me have a drink. Okay, let me get some jiao. How do I? Okay, all right, I'm ready. Are you ready for another hour? Okay, you won't hear me for an hour. I'll give you question time. We'll go through all the questions you have about your assessment. All right, because I want you to take everything away tonight. So let's have a look. Okay. In Chapter 4, job costing, and basically even standard costing, is really about focusing broad averaging. It's about allocating indirect costs. Indirect costs to some product, some cost object. And we use some basic rate. But in the end, for a company that manufactures multiple products, they may consume these indirect costs differently. And so when you allocate using one big rate, for example, if we go to Foxconn, we will see that they have electricity costs, they have water costs, they have administration costs. And if you go and have a look in Foxconn, they've got the 15 or so lines that are used for making the iPhones. All right, 2 every second of the year. 150 million iPhones. Is that all in the factory? No. Because there's other factory lines for Nokia. There are other factory lines for Philips. There's factory lines for Sony and many other brand name companies. So the question is, how does Foxconn allocate its water costs, its electricity costs, its factory rental costs, administration? So some people say, oh, we'll just use a broad rate. Okay, Apple, you've got 15 lines. Then we allocate, and you've got a total of 200 lines at Foxconn, then it's 15 divided by 200. We can allocate that way. You're with me here. What's another way of allocating electricity costs of the factory? How could we allocate that to Apple and not to Nokia? You know, to make sure that everyone gets allocated based on resources consumed. Time, yes. And what do you mean by time?
According to the time that consumed by one product.
Okay, and so electricity is going to be used up by what? Machines. Machines use electricity. Apple's using more electricity than Nokia and other manufacturers, then they should be allocated more of electricity costs, right? You with me? Cause, effect. Okay, allocation basics. Yes. Okay, we're going to look at a bit more detail about how do we allocate costs in about week 4, week 5. But what you need to know now is that generally, if we try and use one basis to allocate indirect costs like electricity, like the investment in the whole factory, like investment in machinery, we try and allocate that across all products. Some products are going to be allocated more than what they should, and some will be allocated less, right? So some products are subsidizing other products. So let me give you a very clear term to take away. Are you ready? It's called cross-subsidization. All right, that means when one product subsidizes another product and vice versa. You with me here? Okay, so keep that in mind, take that away, think about that. And so in the end, Some products get more costs allocated to them, some get less. Activity-based costing helps to get a more accurate allocation. And we're going to look at an activity-based costing example. So I've just skipped over 2 slides. Everyone okay? All right. Rationale for selecting a more refined costing system. Here are all the reasons. So just when you go home, I want you to study that. These are all the different reasons. Okay, sort of about why we need to limit this cross-subsidization, why some products get more allocation than another when it should be the other way around. So simple costing schemes result in cross-subsidization. They do. It happens. But ABC, activity-based costing, is a way of overcoming this cross-subsidization. That's learning objective 3. Distinguish between simple and activity-based costing systems. Remember, this is very introductory tonight. Okay? I want you to just be aware of what are the foundations of sort of costing. Okay? Some people think, some academics come along and said, oh, we can make activity-based costing more sexy, more interesting. How do we do that? Oh, let's classify the different types of cost causes according to whether they go up, costs go up and down if more or less units are made. All right? Whether they go up and down if batch level, setup, shipment setup. You see, here's something real. A big mistake buyers make when they go to a supplier and they find their perfect factory. Maybe it's some like a USB speaker, maybe it's an iPad cover or something, right? And then they say, Mr. Factory Owner, I want to put in an order. You're the factory I want, I've seen your operations, I want to place an order for 10,000 units. And the factory owner says, wow, that's the customer I want. And then the customer comes back a few days later and said, okay, I want 1,000 of green, I want 1,000 of red, I want 1,000 of blue, I want 1,000 of orange. Suddenly the supplier's thinking, what? That 10,000 big volume order is now 10 small orders? Suddenly that information of actually making each one for a different colour is going to require more setups. You need to set up for a different colour each time. And then the buyer wonders why the supplier takes longer. Oh, you can't deliver it by the time we agreed by? Yeah, hey, but when we were talking last month, you agreed that we can deliver then. The buyers don't understand that, well, now you've put added complication into this order. Just because you're ordering 10,000 doesn't mean anything, because you want 10 different colours. So it's like 10 little lots of 1,000. And you expect the supplier to do 10 different setups now, and you expect it to be done at the same time. Buyers don't understand this, right? That's what we mean by batch level, okay? Setups, 10 setup, a setup for every different color, okay? Product sustaining level could be associated with design, and then facility sustaining level. All right, so now we want to go with an example. For the next one, spend the next 15 minutes on example. So now is where I want you to really focus, because it's a bit of computational stuff going on now. All right, so let me give you some background first. The background is important to motivate you. Okay, how many of you have seen a car accident before? I saw one last night. I've been in a car accident. I've caused a car accident. Okay, so I understand. But the first thing to smash in a car accident is generally the lights. Okay, And if you go and get spare parts for lights, they're very expensive. Very expensive. So Plastim, they actually make lenses. It's just a little plastic lens that goes in part of the tail light, not just the whole light. They make the lens. And the simple lens, it costs them, well, they're selling it to their customer. How much are they selling it to the customer? For $63. Circle that. They're selling it for $63. You with me here? Their competitor comes along, Bandex, and actually contacts Plastim's customer, Giovanni Motors. And they said, "Hey, Mr. Giovanni Motors," this is the competitor, "I can do it cheaper than your supplier. I can do it for $53. Are you interested?" And so the manager of Giovanni Motors gets on the phone to Plastim and says, "Hey, I know you're doing a really good job for us. We love you. We love your visiting. We love your deliveries on schedule. Your quality is great, but we've just had an offer from a competitor, and they're a little bit cheaper than you. Can you help us?" So there's a big decision that Plastim have to make. A decision. Are they going to help? Are they actually going to match their $53 competitor's price? That means they're going to have to give up $10 per unit. You with me here? All right, that's the decision. Should they match or say, "Okay, you go with a competitor, we're happy with that"? That's the decision. One or the other. It's black or white. No theory here. This is real. This happens every day. Right, so that's the decision. Now let's have a look at the cost aspects of that decision. At the moment, Plastim uses a basic costing system. So there's the indirect costs, $2 million, and they allocate according to direct manufacturing labour hours. There's about 40,000 of them. So you divide this by 40,000. Basically, they're allocating $60 for every direct manufacturing labour hour. They're the indirect costs. Indirect costs, what do we mean? Water, electricity, supervisory salaries, administration, moulding setup, design. Lots of different costs involved here. They put it all together at 2.3 million divided by some allocation base. Direct manufacturing labour hours. It seems simple. Most factories do this. So it's $60 allocation. And then they've got direct materials, direct manufacturing labour. All right, so let's have a look at what the situation is. Now remember, the competitor has contacted Plastim about the simple lenses, not the complex lenses. So you just got off the phone from Giovanni Motors and you're thinking, I have to cut my price down to 53. So I better ring up the accountant. Mr. Accountant, so how much does it really cost us to make this simple product? Because I've got to make a decision. Do I cut $10 or do I just say no, go with the competitor? That's the decision. Oh, so the accountant goes through the calculation and brings this to the manager. Oh, it actually costs you $58.75 to make after we've allocated indirect costs. Are you with me here? Right, half a machine hour per unit. Basically, there you have $30 per unit. And it's $58.75. Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Accountant. So it sounds like, oh, we cannot cut down to $53. We cannot meet our competitor's price. You with me here? That's the decision. It's a strategic decision. These are strategic decisions. So the point of this matter is that, is this allocation of indirect costs, is this allocation, is it accurate enough? Remember what we're doing here. We're interested in information that facilitates decisions. In other words, allows you to make an accurate decision. So if you say, oh no, go with the competitors, and it turns out you actually can make it for much cheaper, then that's a bad decision. In other words, you made an inaccurate decision. You with me here? All right? So we need good information to facilitate we make a more accurate decision. So let's have a look. Maybe we can do a better allocation. We can do a better allocation of these indirect costs. Let's see what activity-based costing can do for us. All right, let's go into the direct costs. There are direct materials, there are direct labour, and now we've got mould, cleaning and maintenance. This was part of the indirect costs before, but if you go into a factory like Plastim, you'll see that there are moulds for each product, so therefore they are directly related to a product. A mould does not make more than one product. They're directly related. So, and every time the moulds are used, you have to clean them afterwards, you have to maintain them, you have to oil them, you have to store them. Okay, so you can directly attribute the costs of looking after the mould to a particular product. It becomes direct. Before, it was indirect. It was just bundled into the indirect costs. What are the other indirect costs that are still indirect? Well, design activity. Design. We're doing lots of designs. Okay, because once a product's designed, it starts to be manufactured. Then you're doing other product designs, right? Designers can take 5 months, 6 months. Some ideas might come 18 months, some longer. But every year you've got to allocate the designer's salary. You can't just say, you can't ask the designers, you work an 8-hour day for the last month, what percentage of time did you spend on one product? Like, that's how accountants do things. That's a bit too much. Let's just make that an indirect activity. What about this moulding machine setup? That's the forklift. You go and pick up the mould, lift it up, drive it around, put it into the machine. All right? And the other machine, the other product needs to be made. Take that mould out, move it back, put it away, get the other mould, pick it up, put it into the machine. Okay, indirect, again. So you notice that now, under activity-based costing, we have broken up all these different activities. Before, it was just one big cost. So what we're trying to do with activity-based costing is we're trying to split up different activities based on the different cause effects of the resources used of that activity. So designing is driven by parts per square feet. A moulding machine setup activity is driven by setup hours, because setups is actually driving setup activity. You see that? Moulding machine hours is driving operations activity. Shipments is driving shipment activity. Notice that? Can you see how the activities are driving these different costs? You see? So you divide this by the activity, now you get an allocation base. So now, before we had just one allocation rate. What was that? What was it? $60 per machine hour. Remember the one rate. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. So now we can allocate. Let's look at allocating those 6. Notice what we have here is actually we turn over on the side. So what you have in the top row is now the first column. What you have on the second row is now the second column. You ready? Let me turn to the next slide. I want you to see it's identical, so don't get confused. There you have. There you have the top row, the activity. There you have the type of activity. And there you're in green, there you have the second row. Basically, wait a minute. There's the second row. And there you have that row there. You with me? So just turned it over. All right, so I don't want you to confuse there. All right. Do you have to do ABC in the exam? Not directly, but you need to appreciate how activity-based costing gives you a little bit more accuracy in the allocation for decision facilitating. That's what we mean by how costing can strategically be used. So let's do an allocation, shall we? Let's allocate to the two products. What are the two products? They are simple lenses, complex lenses. And guess what? Now, under activity-based costing, here are the allocations per unit. Before we were allocating $30. Now we're only allocating $19. This more complex lenses is using more of these activities. Now you're allocating $64. Before you were allocating less. Before, simple lenses was cross-subsidizing the complex lenses. Now activity-based costing is giving a more accurate allocation of the resources consumed by each product. Before there are lots of cross-subsidization, now there is less. I'm not saying it's perfect. No costing system is perfect. I'm just saying now there is less cross-subsidization. It's closer. And all that matters is it close enough to make a better decision? Well, let's have a look. A better decision, when we add up all of the costs of simple lenses, now the total cost is $49. What was it before? What was it before? Let's have a look. $58.75. Oh, no way we can actually match the competitor. No way, we're going to lose money. We cannot cut by $10. Oh, yes, we can, because now the real cost is less than $50. So we can match the competitor. Now I can get on the phone to Giovanni Motors and say, oh yes, we can match them, but we want a contract for the next 3 years. Because if this happens again, it's going to cause us too much uncertainty. And now you can strategically use that in negotiations. You with me here? You see? Activity-based costing is a way of getting more accuracy in the allocation so you can make a better facilitating decision. Okay? Conclusions. Nothing is perfect. Like everything is correct. It just gets down to what you believe is most relevant in terms of what is consuming the resources. What is causing the electricity to be used? What is causing the mold setup activity to be used? What is causing the water to be used? That's all. We're just trying to allocate costs that match the cause of the cost. That's all. Okay? So here's the big thing to take away. Factory overhead is normally applied in a rational manner using some type of averaging. Okay? But there is trade-offs. You can be very simple and you can make it a little bit more complex. All right? Like I just showed you then. With activity-based costing, we make it a little bit more complex and then suddenly the owner of Plastim can now make a better decision. All right? So therefore, that's value adding. That is value adding. All right? There are simple methods, there are complex methods. But here's the big thing you need to take away. Are you ready? We can make the perfect system in any factory. Perfect, but it's going to cost you more and more incrementally as we make things more perfect. So for example, here maybe we have 6 cost pools. Then here we have 10. Oh, let's make 20. Oh, let's make 30. Let's have 40. Make it even perfect. That $19.1998 is really actually $19.75.63 allocation to the simple lens, right? But is that really going to change the decision that needs to be made? No. So therefore, maybe just 6 pools in this case is enough. 6 allocation bases is enough to make an accurate decision. Any more, the decision accuracy just doesn't improve, so therefore you're adding cost to your system and the marginal benefit starts to be less than the marginal costs. Because the marginal benefits is really reducing the error. So the perfect system is where the marginal benefits of improving the complexity of the system equals the declining marginal error costs in making a better decision. You with me here? You see? That's the big thing, the economics you need to take away tonight. Not every factory needs activity-based costing. It depends on the decision being made. It depends on the decision being made. If a factory only makes one product, then you don't need to have activity-based costing. Are you with me here? If it only makes one product, then there's no cross-subsidization. You with me? All right, see, I want you to think about this. You just say, oh, ABC, ABC, you need to have ABC. Oh, you need to have ABC, activity-based costing. No, it's horses for courses. Every factory is different, and try to be reasonable with how sophisticated we need to be. We don't need to have, sometimes a little increase in sophistication is enough to get a better decision. That's all. So what we did tonight was show you basically how activity-based costing can give you a more accurate decision to help in facilitating. What I also showed you tonight, I gave you a brief introduction to what do we mean by basic cost accounting, which many of you have not looked at before. Okay, so we're not worried about debits and credits, but I want you to appreciate that cost accounting is important, integral to making good strategic decisions.